A good way to remember a cumulative sentence is that the main idea, the simple sentence, comes at the beginning, and all those extra added details accumulate afterward. So that's just a little trick. The first literary example we're going to look at is from F. Scott Fitzgerald's The Great Gatsby, in which our narrator says, "I spent my Saturday nights in New York because those gleaming, dazzling parties of his were with me so vividly that I could still hear the music and the laughter faint and incessant from his garden, and the cars going up and down his drive." In general, cumulative sentences are often used to set the scene and establish imagery, in which this quote certainly does. The simple sentence, "I spent my Saturday night in New York," needs to be enhanced with detail because he's retelling, he's remembering. And as the reader will later find out, Gatsby's parties are elaborate, garish, superfluous, and thus the details of the sentence echo that sentiment. Likewise, the accumulating details are made up of subordinate clauses and features that create a fluid rhythm that both embodies the importance of music and musicality to the era of the Jazz Age, and it displays the restlessness and the intoxication of Gatsby's parties and many people of the 1920s. We can clearly see that our narrator has been caught up in this celebration. Our next device is the periodic sentence, which is actually the opposite of the cumulative sentence. According to grammarabout.com, a periodic sentence is a long and frequently involved sentence marked by suspended syntax in which the sentence is not completed until the final word, usually with an emphatic climax, and this is in contrast with the loose and cumulative sentence. So in other words, it's the opposite of the cumulative sentence, in which all the extra details come first and the main idea is found at the end. So the little trick to remember this is a periodic sentence, the main idea is nearest the period. That's how I remember it. The literary example we're going to look at is from Ralph Waldo Emerson's Self-Reliance, in which he states, "To believe your own thought, to believe that what is true for you in your private heart is true for all men, that is genius." To end with this simple sentence, "that is genius," the reader is left to ponder and digest that claim. Likewise, the length of the early subordinate clauses in relation to the main idea, "that is genius," creates a contrast, even a change in rhythm, a pause, which further highlights the importance of the idea. Had Emerson began with, "It is genius to believe your own thought," the emphasis would be on the beliefs, but he is trying to redefine genius, not as the typical denotation of having vast amounts of knowledge, but rather as the practice of relying on oneself and living by the dictate of one's own heart. The last device we're going to talk about is the balanced sentence. According to grammarabout.com, the balanced sentence is a sentence made up of two parts that are roughly equal in length, importance, and grammatical structure, a paired construction. In other words, it's very similar to isocolon and parallelism. However, the two parts don't have to be exactly identical in length and form. Structures should still be parallel, but length is not important. The example that I have is from Horace Walpole, in which he states, "Life is a comedy to those who think, a tragedy to those who feel." As you can see, they are parallel in structure but not completely identical in length. The parallel structure of this sentence creates an antithesis or contrast of claims between comedy and drama and emotion. The two distinct sides of the sentence further highlight the two contrasting viewpoints of the world, and the order of the clauses, ending with those who feel as opposed to those who think, leaves the reader with a somber, emphatic punch. I hope that this presentation has helped you further understand these strategies. Now let's do an activity to see if you really get it.
Created using Powtoon.